And we are live. Hello, Mr. Martin Atkins. How are
Hey,
you?
I'm good, Ivan. How you doing?
Yeah, we are here with a curfew at 6 p.m.
Ah,
Well, it's not a lockdown, so it's not that bad.
so at 6 o'clock, everybody has to be in home.
Yeah, it's basically like a Orwellian nightmare.
Yeah.
It's like you go to work and then you enter your home and that's it.
Yeah, and you
Very,
go
very productive.
and you go on the internet.
Yes.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
No, that's great. I really thank you for accepting my invitation. And well, looking forward, I have many questions. And
Okay.
but my audience is really broad. So I was wondering if you can introduce yourself a little to my audience.
Sure. So, okay. This will take. It takes a minute. I started playing drums when I was. I'm Martin Atkins. I started playing drums when I was 9 years old. I started drinking Newcastle Brown Ale at the age of 11, backing strippers at
Sure.
the age of 12. Cheers. And I joined my first band when I was 12. At the age of 19, maybe 20, I joined Public Image Limited in 1979 in time to play on the Metal Box, John Peel session. My first show was Paris, which were two shows in Paris, the 17th and
Really?
18th,
Wow.
which was recorded and released as Paris au Printemps. I just restored the board tape. So there was like 8 songs released, and I have 22 songs from both nights. Played on the Flowers of Romance, toured America. This Is What You Want, This Is What You Get. This Is Not a Love Song, live in Tokyo, the first 32-track digital live album. So I had 5 years in Pill. I quit. I then joined Killing Joke.
Wow. All right.
Extremities album. While I was in Killing Joke, I toured with Ministry. I did the In Case You Didn't Feel Like Showing Up tour, which was memorialized as a video and now a double live album. And at the day the Ministry tour ended, I went into the studio with everybody I could from that tour and other people as well, and Steve Albini, and I formed my band Pigface. Pigface is still going and has 500 members, which include Flea, Danny Carey from Tool, Andrew Weiss from Rollins, Randy Blythe from Lamb of God, Leslie Rankine from Ruby and Silverfish, and 494 other people. I have my own record label, Invisible Records, which has released 350 albums since 1988. I've been to China twice. I started teaching 16 years ago. I wrote a book called Tour Smart, which became a touring bestseller. I just, a few years ago, finished the prequel to Tour Smart,
Wow.
which is phone book with Band Smart with over 400 contributors, which you could go to martinatkins.com and download it for free. That's my third book. I'm now the music industry coordinator at Millikin University in Decatur, Illinois, which is 2 hours south of Chicago. Oh,
Wow, there's a really complete
and
description.
and I formed the band Murder Inc. I'm in the Head Like a Hole video with 9 Inch Nails, and I performed on the Grammy award-winning track Wish.
Wow.
And Trent is also part of my band Pigface. So there you
Yes.
go. Yeah.
Yes, I noticed that. That's amazing. There's a great career. Um, well, I guess I have a lot of questions, but for me, it will be great because of course, your career is really long. Um, the obvious question is how you start to play music.
Yeah. And I should add, let me add,
Yes.
I'm the father of 4 boys,
Ah,
and
important.
I'm 61 years old. Right.
Okay.
I mean, I've done it's a long list of things,
Mm,
but I mean, I've been doing this for a while. So,
yes.
how I started playing the drums or how I joined bands?
For me, because that's a question that obviously everyone asks you. For me, I would like to be more specific. Like, for example, in alternative music,
Mhm.
you get right away into alternative, or you were more like, I don't know, like
No,
mainstream.
when I started playing drums at the age of 9, honestly, I started playing drums because my dad bought me a drum kit. That's
That's it.
it. If he bought me uh, gardening tools, this would be a show about my garden and these flowers. You know,
Yes.
that's just a father and son thing.
Mm,
My dad bought me a kit and I wanted to please my dad. So I would play for 4 or 5 hours every night till my hands bled.
mm.
So by the time I was 12, I've been playing a lot. And my parents, I don't know if they didn't care that I was making a noise. I don't know. God bless them. But
But was in your room the drum kit, or was in
yeah,
like far
some
away from home?
no. Sometimes it was in my room. Sometimes it was at the bottom of the stairs. And people like 8 houses down the street would tell me
Yeah.
the next day, like, "Hey, so you were practicing last night again?" And I would say, like, "Oh, did you walk past the window and you saw me?" They're like, "No, we were sitting in our
No, we were trying
living
to
room
sleep.
trying to watch television and psh, psh, psh," 'cause I always hit my drums very hard.
You were a
So
little hyperactive when you were
yeah,
little?
yeah, sure.
So that
Um,
was a kind of a way that your parents tried to guide you to expense that extra energy, something?
yeah, maybe. I think that drums, I noticed just a couple of years ago, because I had a spell where I didn't play my drums for a while. I
Mm,
was writing and teaching and speaking a lot. Um, I noticed when I played my drums for a few hours the first time after maybe 5 or 6 years, it really relaxed me, not in a physical way, but in a mental way. Like
mm,
like by moving everything, my my mind, parts of my mind had to disassociate themselves because
mm,
you can't be thinking about every part of your body. You have to kind of go somewhere else to be independent with your arms and legs.
mm.
And so maybe I think there's definitely a benefit for an ADD, ADHD, hyperactive person, but I don't think that's why they got me the drum kit. Um,
Sure.
I was handed a drum at school.
Mm.
Like, okay, like there was a big box of instruments. Maybe I was 8, and the instruments were just handed out: tambourine, snare drum, xylophone, triangle.
Mm.
And I was given a snare drum, and I guess I I don't know, I did a roll on the snare, and somebody said to my mom, "Ooh,
There's
I
potential there.
I hear that Martin is fantastic." And I think I think she's just making conversation, you know.
Sure.
And next thing you know, I guess my mom and dad saw a used drum kit at the market, and
Mm.
they bought me this used drum kit, and here
That's
we are.
keyword.
Yeah,
Yeah. No, but I think you have to have maybe a little interest to practice, because
yeah,
sometimes there are parents that they wanted their son practice the piano, for example,
yeah,
and it's a torture for the kid,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
or
yeah,
the guitar.
yeah,
So maybe there was something that click in your head that say, yeah,
yeah.
I really like to beat stuff.
Well, I think that my dad played trombone when he
Mm,
was a kid. I think he got me trombone lessons at one point. I was just like, "Oh, fuck this," I don't want to. I don't. This is not. cool, you know. Um,
Durr.
yeah. Um, and I started to play along. You said, did I get straight into alternative? What I started to play along with Beatles albums, um,
Okay.
and um, and then uh, I joined a band that was kind of a cover band, you know.
Mm,
So and we were playing a lot. So we would play 8 shows a week.
mm,
Every night, Sunday afternoons, we would be making the music for strippers in a working men's club, right? And I'm like 12, 13. I'm drinking beer in the dressing room, backing strippers, and but and then during the week we would do 3 sets of cover songs, maybe 45 minutes a set. So I was playing for 2, 3 hours a night
wow.
every day of the week for a few years. So then I was in a kind of a prog rock band with a mellotron, you
Mm,
know, and got maybe tried some more technique,
mm,
off time stuff, different things. And so by the time punk happened,
mm,
I was pretty good, but also in a frame of mind where I just didn't give a shit. Like,
mm.
17 years old. Um, I
Yeah.
went to London. So the band I was in the north of England was pretty big. We played to 600 people a night, Um,
What was the name of that band? You remember?
yeah, the Mind, Mind, Mind.
Ah, okay.
And and it was great. But after a couple of years, I'm like, this is great. We're a big fish in a small pond.
Mm. It
And
was like progressive rock, like
yeah,
King
yeah,
Crimson,
yeah, exactly.
stuff like that.
Yeah, exactly like that. The songs were 7, 8 minutes long. You
Yeah,
know, uh, you know,
like with 10 parts.
yeah, 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 yeah. And so I went to London, which was 250 miles south.
Mm.
Which, being in America, I mean, people drive 250 miles for dinner. I mean, 250 miles is nothing. But in England, it's kind of one end of the country to the other. It's the equivalent of New York to LA, right?
Yes.
So I went to London for auditions, and I had a couple of auditions, and I arranged it so that the people from the first audition said they would give me a ride to a house I could stay in to audition for the second people. They said I could stay there, and then they'd take me to, I mean, I was 16, 17.
Wow.
And I ran out of money. And Thursday, Thursday lunchtime, my dad had arranged, this is way more detailed than you wanted, I'm sure, had
No.
arranged um, for a company that he did work with a truck to pick me up with my drums and drive me back. Right.
Mm,
But on the Wednesday, I went, I bought a copy of a magazine called Melody Maker.
mm.
And there was no internet back then, 77, um, maybe 78, maybe
So Melody
77.
Maker was like an alternative magazine? Like
No,
a rock?
it was a rock paper
Mm,
which covered punk eventually, but
okay.
it covered everything. But in the back of Melody Maker was where the classified ads were
Mm,
for bands. And so I was sitting in a Chinese restaurant, and I open up. You In London, you could buy Melody Maker on a Wednesday. Everywhere else in the country, it wasn't available till a Thursday. So it felt like a cool thing to read the Melody Maker a day before anybody else. And I saw an ad in the back of the paper: drummer required for band with rather well-known singer. I'm like, that's Johnny Rotten. That's Johnny Rotten's new band. because I knew something was happening. I called the number. Hello, Virgin Records. I'm like, oh fuck, and so I'm like, hey, it's me. It's Martin Atkins. I've been playing drums for almost 11, 12 years. I don't give a shit. I'm the ideal drummer for you because I'm really good, but I don't give a shit, because you don't want somebody who just doesn't give a shit.
That was your pitch for
Yeah,
Virgin
yeah,
Records.
yeah, yeah. Um, and they said, "Well, you sound pretty interesting. Come on down to the auditions on Friday." And I said, "Well, wow, I still remember all this." I said, I can't do auditions on Friday. I'm going back to the north of England tomorrow. Can I do an audition this afternoon? And they're like, no, you can't do, and so I'm like, well, then I can't do that. I'm the guy for this job, but I can't do it. And so Thursday lunchtime, I put my drums in the back of this truck and we drive back up to the north of England. And I just knew, I'm like, well, what are you doing? That was an opportunity. And you just, that's it now. I mean, I didn't know at the time that PIL would go through 7 drummers in the first 14, 15
Sure.
months, and I was kicking myself. I got back to Durham, which is where I was living, and I'm just like, oh fuck. And I told my mum and dad, and I told the band I was in, the Mind, I'm moving to London. That's where it's at. And they called me back the next day and they said, you're right, we're going to move down there too. We all moved to London, and I just kept seeing in the music papers, drummer Jim Walker quits PIL. Another drummer was set on fire. Somebody else, Richard Dudansky fired after show in Manchester.
Wow.
And so
it was like a complicated jig.
Yeah. And so I'd call Virgin Records. Hey, it's me again. And they said, well, you need to talk to Jeanette Lee. She was kind of managing the band at the time. She was on the front cover of the Flowers of Romance album. And so I called for Jeanette. And one day she wasn't there. Somebody gave me a home number for her. So now I'm talking to Virgin, Jeanette. I get to know Jeanette's mother. So how did I get the job in PIL? I just wouldn't quit. I was just persistent.
Yeah, you were resilient, and you're good with people. I think you are a good communicator. In a way.
I don't think I was. Well, thank you. I don't think I was then. I'm still pretty shy. But yeah, I just would not stop. And in the end, when I called, thinking it was a rehearsal room, and it was in fact the studio where I co-wrote and played on the song Bad Baby, which ended up going on the Metal Box.
Wow, that's amazing. And you were a fan of Sex Pistols?
Yeah, I was a fan of everything.
Or for you was like a good gig? Or was like a dream come true, like, wow, I'm playing with Johnny Rotten?
I mean, so it's strange. I always have to kind of remember what it was like, right? So Johnny Rotten now does not have the same, what's the word I'm looking for?
Appealing? No?
Well, yeah, that, but
Wait?
no. Sense of awe.
Okay.
Right. So, I mean, that might be difficult to understand, but 2 years before I was in the band, he was on the television with Bill Grundy doing that very famous Sex Pistols interview where everybody in the country knows who he is. And there's definitely right. I mean, there are people that you meet like, yeah, I met this person, I met that person. There are very few people where it's like, oh shit, that's
Yeah.
this person, you know. And I'm in a band with the guy.
Yes.
So and it was wild to be behind my drums, which is a comfortable place for me. And
Yeah.
there's in front of me is Johnny Rotten, Jar Wobble, Keith Levine, and sometimes thousands of people, you know.
Yeah. Do
It's
you think
wild.
it's like equivalent to, I don't know, is it one of the biggest? Well, of course, in England you have the Beatles, of course, many great bands. But Johnny Rotten really is like a huge rock star, especially around that time, I think.
Yeah,
Also,
I mean, so when we went to Japan, for
mm,
instance, I mean, there's a Beatles movie called Hard Day's Night, and there's a scene in there where they're on a train and the train pulls into the station and they are mobbed by fans, and that's what happened to us. I mean, it was like, you know, uh, sometimes it's lame to say it was just like the Beatles. This was like the Beatles. You know, it's like an old person's way of telling you, right? This is how it was. But if you think,
you can say Justin Bieber to make it more.
okay, yeah, but if you think that, you know, some of the Beatles are still alive, right?
Yeah.
And there's Johnny Rotten and there's Susie and the Banshees and there's The Cure and so. But now, what are we? 2021. All of the bands that used to be famous are still famous, along
Yes.
with everybody who's famous from 10 years ago, 9 years ago. You know, there are just more celebrities. You
Mm,
know, so aside from the fact that John was an extremely charismatic individual, he was controversial, and there
mm,
weren't that many. There weren't that many celebrities. Like there's at least 20% celebrities back then. I
yeah.
mean, Queen was celebrities. Pink Floyd, they're still right. You get my point, right?
Yes, of course.
There were fewer celebrities. It was a
Yeah.
more mysterious, crazy, intimidating, exciting thing.
Mm.
Yeah.
And he as a character, he was like every people like, because I think is John Rotten is kind of a mythological figure, like kind of a Marilyn Manson. Well, maybe that is you don't know how he's in the real life. When you had see it in with the set pistol was very intense, or in the interviews. He was really like that, or after he quit Sex Pistols, he was a little more chill.
No,
No.
I mean, so and that's also the word charisma.
Hmm.
I mean, I
Yes.
probably people use it to describe soap now. I like it. It's ridiculous. But to me, charisma is rare, cannot be taught. You can teach people stagecraft. Hello,
Yes.
hello, right? That's not charisma. That's stagecraft.
Yes.
But when there's an aura around somebody,
Yeah.
charisma can be kind of like cool, attractive, but it's also very dark and dangerous.
Hmm.
And that combined with, I think, John coming up through punk, experiencing all of that, signing to a label, being dropped, signing to a label, being dropped, signing, but all of the craziness, Malcolm McLaren, Sid, all of this shit,
Yeah.
his frame of reference was very different than anybody else's.
Hmm.
So, and it manifested in different ways. In some ways, I think he was very conscious of it. And he used, I think, he used his celebrity to keep the forces at bay
Hmm.
while we made me just at the very end, the metal box, or got the packaging of the metal box, which people are still amazed by today, or kept the forces out of the studio so we could make the Flowers of Romance, so we could do things differently. There was and this other way of describing it, we could be on stage, me, Wobble, Keith, John. We didn't have any security. We didn't travel with security. That was too rock and roll, right? And so sometimes the only thing keeping 1, 2, 3, 10,000 people at bay was John's look, right? And it sounds ridiculous to say. There's probably people listening going, "What a load of shit!" But honestly, like, just there was a force field around PIL. When we went to America, where most people hadn't seen the Sex Pistols, that was their first encounter with John. The music was very challenging. Metal box. It was like dub. It was like people. It wasn't 1, 2, 3, 4. It wasn't the Sex Pistols at all.
Yes.
It was crazy. It was fucking crazy.
Yeah. No, I'm sure you have a lot of good, crazy memories with your time with Peel.
Yeah.
And I don't know, what's hard to handle as a character, like in a day to day, like in the touring bus, or if you work with him, he was cool.
Well, yeah. I mean, there's 4 of us in the band.
Sure.
The last year, it was just me and John. We hired a bunch of people. It was not difficult to work with him. He could be difficult with other people.
Sure.
But he would bring a reggae. He spent a bunch of time in Jamaica, so he'd bring some reggae dub techniques into the studio.
Sure.
I mean, it was. He enabled the studio to be a sand pit where we would play around. And honestly, quite miraculously, some of the songs on the Flowers of Romance, he'd be sitting outside the studio, 4 enclosed walls, banging the door under the house. And he'd walk into the studio and just sing the songs over some very different backgrounds that we made, that somebody else might have gone in a more avant-garde direction. But for John saw a pathway through that. In the same way, I think that the only thing I could liken it to is what Maynard does with Tool. Sometimes he kind of sings a pop song with hooks that pull you in over some quite strange and difficult music.
Yeah.
If it was somebody, if somebody else went with the music, I think it would push people away. But Maynard has this ability to pull people in, and then they get lost in the music.
Yes.
And so yeah.
And because of the style, that the experimentation, that what's happening with Bill, there were no issue with the label. Like the label say, "Hey guys, you need to do something more mainstream," stuff like that.
They fucking hated it. I mean,
So how was that clash between Johnny Rotten and the label?
Well,
that sounds interesting.
they just dealt with it because it was John.
Yes.
Now, but there are some things that you find out more and more and more about as I do my events, and I focus in on one little area and talk about the stuff. When we looked at the John Peel show, which was 40 years ago, it's one of the first things I did with them. The tapes have been released from the sessions, but I have a recording from the radio where I hear John Peel say my name. And I felt I hadn't heard this stuff in 40 years. I felt like the little kid, because I was listening and recording the radio that night, But when I always try and broaden out the events that I do,
Sure.
and it turns out there were problems with the single Death Disco wasn't released properly to the promotional outlets. And that's a rock and roll bullshit manager's function, that nobody in Pill was really doing that, right? Because how lame to do that bullshit, right? The lyrics were supposed to be printed inside the metal box, and that would have been easy to do a circular thing, put it in there. It didn't happen. So then they took out ads with all the lyrics in the ads and just said, tear out this ad and put it inside your metal box. Like, stuff was mishandled from a logistical point of view. And there was tape, PIL sticky tape, that was supposed to seal the metal box, which to me, in terms of marketing and art and coolness, that would have been fucking amazing to have this. There were small Pill logos, right? Tiny Pill logos on the sticky tape that was going to go around the outside of the box.
Yeah.
And
Cool.
Richard Branson just said, "Look, fuck this." It's fucking. Oh, what now? I mean, to me, when somebody comes up with something like that, you put the fucking icing on the cake, right?
Yes.
And 40 years later, it's still, holy fucking shit, it's a metal box. If it had been sealed, I know why he was getting pissed off. Because it cost more money, which I think the band paid for. And then a truck that had metal boxes in it got into an accident. Well, normally albums in boxes would be fine.
Yes.
But like 3,000 metal boxes got dents in them.
Yeah.
So now it's like, oh, fuck. Now they want to be sealed. And PIL bought the sticky tape. There was a room in John's house in Chelsea. It's full of fucking tape. And it's like, it was just going to cost like 2 cents, 3 cents to put the tape on the machine and seal the boxes.
Yes.
But they wouldn't do it. They wouldn't do it.
Yeah, well, labels.
Yeah. So it's really interesting for me to kind of dive into all of this, the mechanics of all of the stuff that was happening.
Yeah, I know, that's really interesting. So you were just spending a lot of time with Peel, and then what was your next gigs after that?
So John and I ended up in a house in Los Angeles, swimming pool, palm trees, whatever. This Is Not a Love Song was a huge hit all over the world. I mean, all over the fucking world. And I was really unhappy. John and I weren't getting along at all. And I just said, wow, if this is it, front cover of Melody Maker, been to Japan twice, Australia, all over America, Europe, hit single, and I just quit.
Yeah.
And so maybe a year later, I got a call from Killing Joke asking me to go to London and join Killing Joke. While I was still in Killing Joke weren't very busy. They weren't as busy as I wanted them to be. Right.
Around that time, Killing Joke was Killing Joke and Peel, like something like that, or was a similar successful?
No, everywhere else, no. But maybe in Europe, Killing Joke were quite big. So I joined Killing Joke. I started to see that they had management problems. And I started to work on that. I started to manage the band, got them to come over to the US. But still, we could have worked a lot harder. And so when I was asked to do the ministry tour, I'm like, yeah, I just told Killing Joke, I'm taking 8 weeks off. Not that it would matter, because everybody else was just, there
So it
wasn't
was
anything.
really was not very organized.
It wasn't very organized, but there was also the band didn't want to tour America for 2.5 months. They would reluctantly do 5 weeks.
Okay.
Yeah. So, but I got them to tour America. So then,
so you see, I think you are good at convincing people.
Okay. Well, yeah. Okay.
Communication skills.
Well, it wasn't communication. I tried to communicate. There are lots of amazing venues in America. Everywhere I go, I hear Killing Joke.
Yes.
We need to get over there so people know this is us. Those 5 songs, your favorite 5 songs, it's fucking Killing Joke. We need to leave a trail of breadcrumbs for people to go, it's fucking Killing
It's us.
Yeah. And Jazz didn't care. Fuck it.
Yeah. He's a real punk. More punk than Johnny Rotten.
Yeah. So the way I got them to tour America the first time is I said, I tried to say, we should do this. The money is a lot better for us in America. The band had some money problems. In the end, I said, you know what? There's a hotel in San Francisco called the Miyako Hotel. It's a Japanese hotel. The baths are this deep, and you can order sushi and sake on room service. That was it. And I'm like, are you fucking... that was it? And what a manipulative asshole. So then, of course, that was the one show on the tour where the promoter wanted to cancel the show. I'm like, we're not canceling this fucking show. We're coming. We're staying at the Miyako, and fuck you. And yeah, so I was in Killing Joke for a couple of years when we did the ministry tour. And
you played with John Bechdel, or was it a different time?
Yeah, I brought John Bechtel into the band. He played.
He's a good friend.
Oh, he's a great guy. He played with my band Brian Brain.
Okay.
In 86, 85, 86. Yeah.
I remember he told me about his when they try it out. So he moved from America to England with a lot of gear, and he make a tryout with you guys.
Yeah.
And then Jazz say, no, thank you. We're like, what the fuck? But then I don't know, something happened that finally he said yes. He kept playing.
Well, I think that
correct me if I'm wrong.
I remember saying to John, because of course I knew him, I said, I think you should do this, but I've got to tell you, I cannot protect you. Right? Whatever goes down is going to go down, and it won't matter anyway if I stand up for you. Obviously, I had a lot of sway with the band. I was managing the band.
Yes.
But if Geordie and Jazz did a tarot card reading of the vibe of the fucking, who knows? But when we did the Extremities album, I'd just done the ministry tour. So suddenly I'm involved in, to me, industrial music Chicago 89, 90 was the same as punk in England, in London 77. So I was in the middle of that energy, and I brought that energy to the Extremities album, and I think made a pathway for John to do some different looping, different
Yeah,
textures.
of course.
North of the border is there's a screeching sound of a metal tray that you would put teacups on, scraping across around a ceiling like a fingernails on a chalkboard.
Yes.
And then John was really, really smart. So we were using two OBXA keyboards,
Mm,
analog, temperamental, And so once he got them working, he would sample the loops. He would sample the textures. So if they blew up, which sometimes they did, he had the samples, and I just he really was good in that
yeah.
role. He was good in that
Yeah, and
role.
the technical aspect, he was
Yeah,
really good.
yeah, yeah.
And I remember I asked him if there around that time they were using sequences or something well background, and he said no. He
No,
he played everything live.
yeah, yeah. I mean, that's so that was something I really liked about Ministry,
Mm,
Killing Joke, and Pigface. We can use a loop, a
mm,
rhythmic loop that the drums play to,
mm,
but instead of putting 5 minutes of the loop onto some kind of a machine, maybe a DAT machine, CD player,
mm,
an ADAT tape, or
mm,
Pro Tools, right?
yeah.
We just re-trigger 8 or 16 bar loops.
Yes.
So, because you got to remember, Ministry, Killing Joke, you could have some lunatic on stage
Yes.
trying to strangle. So the intro would need, there was a flexibility. So we were
Yeah.
kind of like industrial jam bands where, a song could be, and the same was true of PIL. PIL was flexible. We just didn't use electronics.
Mm,
Um, songs could always be different lengths or go different ways and change the lyrics
mm.
or um,
So with your with killing you use a click or no?
in the studio, yeah, but um, that was to facilitate editing and everything
Mm,
else, right? What we did, Martin Rex, who was the engineer on the album, he came to rehearsals and recorded my drumming and then tempo mapped the drumming.
mm,
So, because what I do as a drummer is the same as George Martin does as a producer, right? So, here's the song. Maybe the root BPM is 100. When we get to the chorus, I might go to 104,
mm.
103, 105, but it's all consistent.
Yeah.
And then come back to the verse, I'm back to 100. It makes the chorus like it feels a little bit more triumphant.
Yeah.
Then, if there's in many cases, this happens with Killing Joke, like a middle section,
Yeah.
I might go to 97, 96, 97.
Mm,
Right? It makes it more melancholy and it
mm.
makes it more triumphant then when you come out of that, back up, right? So, and then on a long outro, I will slowly keep increasing the BPM, which
Oh,
you don't hear. You don't
yeah.
hear it, but
Yes.
if it stays the same, it actually feels like it's slowing down and getting boring.
Mm,
If every bar is a tiny bit shorter than the one
yes.
before, it keeps it interesting to your brain. There's a David Bowie single. I don't know what song it is. If you take the needle and you go from the beginning of the outro to the end, it's like, what the fuck? It's like 20 BPM. It's like, this
Yes.
is ridiculous. If you listen to the whole thing,
If you do it gradually,
you don't
people
notice it.
don't notice. Yeah, I
Right.
do the same. For example, on my DJ set,
Uh-huh.
when I have a song that is like I don't know 150, and I
Uh-huh.
want to move to 160 or so, I just do it gradually. In
Uh-huh.
especially in the breaks. In the breaks, I just and
yeah.
people didn't notice, and then you can switch to another song and it will be
Right.
perfect.
So Martin Rex tempo mapped all of the songs. So
Mm,
then, I mean, in my fictitious example, 100, 104, 100,
yes.
96, right? So then he would create a click map
Mm,
from like,
yes.
but I would say, well, you've just mapped my drums. I obviously don't fucking need a fucking like, but in but we were using some very expensive studios.
Mm,
We recorded drums at the Townhouse in London, which is
mhm,
where I did Flowers of Romance. It's where Phil Collins did In the Air Tonight.
mhm.
Queen used to record there. We booked 3 days to do the drums. I did all of the drums on Extremities in 11 hours.
Wow. And what the system that you were using to record that?
Tape.
Tape. Just
Yeah. Yeah. Two fucking 2-inch tape. Yeah. Yeah,
yes.
yeah, 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 yeah.
Old school. So then you were playing with well, you played with PL Killing Joke, and then Killing Joke. You see there was a little too crazy there, and uh Ministry.
So
How
so
you what
well
was your connection with Ministry?
so Killing Joke wasn't too crazy. In fact, it wasn't crazy enough. Right?
Ah,
It's like
okay.
here we are
Ah,
struggling,
okay. They were not like proactive. They
right? And like
okay.
if we went on the road for a year,
Yeah.
then the band would have been, I mean,
Yes.
they have a really respected. I love Killing Joke
Yes.
still, and I love PIL. I like how fortunate for me to be in these
Yes.
fucking dun, 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 change. It's fucking brilliant, right? But but I was still in Killing Joke when I took time off to go do ministry,
Ah, okay. Time
and I
off.
was still in Killing Joke
Ah, okay.
when I formed Pigface. In fact, I
You had
remember,
3 bands at the same time?
yeah, I remember. I mean, it was crazy. I remember bringing the first Pigface album to play to Killing Joke at some point, and of course they fucking hated it, you know.
Really?
But then we did a tour with Pigface, and once again, there was no reason for me to choose between Pigface or Killing Joke
Yeah.
because we do 4 or 5 weeks with Killing Joke, and then people would just go their own ways for 6 months till somebody said, "Hey, we should do something," you know.
Ah, okay, so they were really relaxed,
Yeah.
they were not, hurried to,
Right, right, right,
tour.
right.
Okay.
And I was like, I mean, honestly, this period, I was I was fucking killing it. Like, if you listen to uh, Burning Inside, Thieves, all these ministry songs, just full on,
Yes.
and then you listen to Killing Joke, the Extremity songs, plus all of the War Dance, Love Like Blood, Change, Kings and Queens, Nighttime. I was losing 2 pounds a night, just going crazy, and I just wanted to keep playing.
Yes.
So we did a Pigface tour,
Mm.
and we would be nice to the audience and say hi to everybody and play for 2 hours, sometimes 3 hours,
Wow.
um, and all these different people would come into Pigface from other bands,
Yes.
or stop by, and instead of stopping by to say hi and chatting in the dressing room,
Stopping by to sing a song.
yeah, they'd sing a song, or like, well, grab a bass, let's go, and so increasingly Pigface became the thing that I really wanted to do.
Hmm.
And it seemed like Killing Joke was the thing that even Killing Joke didn't really want to do that much.
Yes.
You know?
No, but it
So
happened. There are some bands that find like a comfort zone
yeah,
and they are good for them. So
yeah,
then it happened. There's for me a band or playing in a band is like a relationship
Mhm.
couple. You know, sometimes
Yeah.
there one guy that will say, "Yeah, no, let's tour all the year, every year. Let's make 3 albums every year." And the other guy will say, "No, mm, for me, 3 months is okay. Let so or it could be really really different. So it's important to find a good match. So no, I completely understand.
And then
But
somewhere in amongst there, um, the Ministry Killing Joke connection was Geordie and Jazz knew Al and his
ah
first wife Patty Jorgensen
uh,
from London. They knew of each other from London. So when Killing Joke came to Chicago, I
mm,
was still living in New Jersey. Um, Al and Patty came to the show. It was like a reunion.
mm,
They came to the show. We ended up at their loft, a huge 3,000 to 4,000 square foot loft in
wow.
Chicago with a bar, and it was kind of like a big party after the show. I exchanged numbers with Al.
But
Uh, yeah,
around that moment, what was the what he's playing was like after with sympathy, or was
yeah. So
because
the
I always wonder if because when you listen Ministry and you don't know Killing Joke, you say, "Oh, Ministry, they invent this shit." But then you listen Killing Joke and you say, "Wow, they are really inspired by Killing Joke."
yeah, if you listen to, I was sitting on a bus with Jazz and Geordie in
Mm,
San Francisco, and I think I had the Pale Head album
yeah,
from Alan Paul and whoever,
yeah,
and Jazz and Geordie laughed their way through the whole thing, and Geordie's like, just Darkest Before Dawn, like all of the riffs and
yes,
it was just nonstop. Oh, here we go. That's the end of that song. Just all the way through
yeah.
where they felt the riffs had come from. You know,
Yeah, no, for me it's clearly well, I'm a little Ministry before Killing Joke, but then I discovered Killing Joke and say, okay, so this is the source, you know.
right? I mean,
I
sorry.
no
If
no no, it's okay.
if you listen to Change,
Mm,
dun 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 dun, dun I mean um, that there's also a couple of songs on the Flowers of Romance, like Stigmata. Do 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 do.
yeah,
Um, it's just kind of taken
mm,
30 BPM up
yes,
and some machines. And I mean, um, I don't think in a bad way. I think in a respectful way. But
yeah, but
yeah,
it's
yeah, yeah, yeah,
inspiration. Maybe Killing
yeah,
Joke get inspired for other bands too that I don't
yeah,
know.
yeah. Yeah.
um,
Well. So I mean, there's that famous example of Nirvana, "Smells Like Teen Spirit,"
mm,
coming from '80s.
mm,
Have you? That's on the internet somewhere. Where
okay.
if you slow Teen Spirit down, it becomes '80s. Da 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 da
Ah, okay.
da. And so I sat with Geordie one night, and he's like, "Oh fuck yeah, it's exactly the same." And but instead of getting angry, Geordie goes, "Anyway, listen to this," and he turns '80s into "Baby Come Back" by the Equals. Dun,
Ah.
dun, 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 diddle, diddle. And I was just like, oh, fuck. He's like, yeah, swings and roundabouts. Yeah.
But I'll recognize the influence of Killing Joke.
I mean,
I
I
don't
think,
know
I,
publicly or
I don't know about publicly. I don't read what he
no.
says.
But for example, around the time, like he was like a fan of Killing Joke. Like,
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
wow, you guys really changed my life,
No, I mean,
or get me inspiration. Or
he, he, I mean, he invited us all back to his house for a
okay,
party. So, yeah,
yes,
it's fucking Killing
the
Joke.
connection.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And so, um, by the time we were in Miami, Al called me and said, I want you to do this tour. So I took the time off to go do the tour. Yeah, yeah,
How was that tour? Because the first time I saw that show, it really my brain was like, "Pah!"
yeah,
It's like really crazy concept. It's like something that two drummers, fire, and
mm,
the visuals, everything, the
yeah,
production.
yeah,
I remember, I don't know what age I had, but I was kind of a teen, and I said I want to do that. But
yeah,
you
yeah,
know, in your head, it's more easy than than in
yeah,
the practical,
yeah,
because it's a logistic. Well, you experience a lot of that with Pigface too, but from a logistic perspective, it's crazy
yeah,
make a tour like that.
yeah. I mean, yeah. So, I mean, it's two drum kits,
Yeah,
two sets of samplers. Um, Monitoring was, needed to be uh, spot on for
you
us
were
to
using a
play.
click for that tour?
No,
No.
no,
Wow.
but you don't need a click if you have a loop, right?
Yes.
So burning inside, do ding digger, do ding digger,
Yeah.
do
It's the
ding
loop who give
digger,
you the tempo.
do ding digger. Yeah, yeah. Except they switched out the monitors one night, and I think the clicks that I was playing to, do ding digger, do ding digger,
No.
were
Fuck.
like freaked. These better speakers were worse for me because I um uh, but it was a crazy tour. But um I mean, for me, I'd done my time, right? I did 5 years with PIL, where
Yes.
we're in front of 10,000 people in
Sure.
Los Angeles with no security, and people are just taking the sound system.
No,
Somebody
really.
turns on the fire hose, and there's a waterfall coming down from the balcony. We played in Japan with German shepherds, riot police on stage to keep the audience off the stage. We had riot police on horseback, police helicopters. So it's like, all right, it's a fucking ministry. Um, and of course,
Wow.
I think Al had been building up to the Cage tour for a
Mm.
while, and yeah, some crazy fucking individuals on that tour that led me to be like, okay, I'm looking around. We are a fantastic ministry cover band. I wonder what would happen if we were just in a studio. And I invited Al as well. Al stopped by the studio, drank a bottle of Bushmills, and left. But um, it was a very interesting experiment to start Pigface
Yeah, for
from
sure.
the ministry tour. Yeah, yeah,
No, because of course you can see that for example, from that concert, it sparked that idea of have multiple guests. No, I think was,
hmm
but I'm curious when I'll invite you to this tour. He he told you, yeah. By the way, you will have another drummer
Oh
bes-
yeah,
besides you.
yeah. But see, to me, I mean, I grew up. I went to see Gary Glitter play. I mean, Gary Glitter was a pop sensation in England before he was arrested for child porn. Um, he had
Wow.
two drummers, and that was always fascinating to me because two drummers visually, everything is perfectly in sync.
Yeah.
Because of course, otherwise it would be terrible. But sorry. Um, so the two drummer thing was just like fuck yeah.
Yes. No, and especially I found it interesting that was an electronic drummer and a acoustic drummer.
Well,
They were
well,
really complementing really
well.
well.
I had triggers on my snare and triggers on the bass drum
Ah, okay.
from my kit. We're triggering an Akai S900
Yes.
just for the bass
Sampler.
drums and the snare drums. But the pedals were shit back then.
Really?
Yeah, I had a DW 3000. I don't know what it was, but the power cable. So it didn't the beater on the drum head didn't trigger the sample. The foot plate getting close to the bottom of the foot plate triggered the sample. And
Really?
yeah, and
Wow. That's original.
and the I don't know who sent me this. Okay, so but the power cable for the unit
Yeah.
just kept like
Breaking.
vibrating out. Like, of course, because I mean, when I bend metal beater shafts,
No, really.
I play my bass drum so hard, but so of course anything around me is just going to get destroyed. You know,
Yes.
I have 3 snare drums all set up on their own stands with mics and everything to switch snare drums out in case I start going really crazy.
Yeah.
And so it was a battle with the electronics. And then for Bill Rieflin, he had one of the early Simmons,
Yes.
pads, which and he didn't. He was a really talented player, but he didn't play very hard. He didn't have to trigger a sample.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, it absolutely fucked his arm up, his left
Really?
arm. Yeah, because back then, a drum pad was basically a kitchen countertop.
Yeah,
With
there
a
were
li-
no,
with
there were no, they were
right,
really hard.
yeah. So every hit just vibrated all the way up your arm. There was a
Wow.
little bit of rubber, but not much. And I
Yes.
mean, we fought our way through that shit for sure.
No, but you, for sure, you made history with that tour, and of course, it inspired to make Pigface, and then how you get involved with
Um,
Nine Inch Nails. Sorry.
I met Trent in Cleveland, where my band Brian Brain, and this is I need to thread this thread as well. So my band Brian Brain, I started Brian Brain before I joined PIL.
Yeah.
I was the singer. I called myself Brian, and all of my drums were on reel-to-reel tape machine, which we use live. And instead of waiting for an encore, we put all of the applause on the tape.
No, really.
So and I thought, well, how could we do this differently? Instead of being in the dressing room, waiting and hoping for the audience to give us permission to do an encore, we just pelted them with bananas. Right. So and we just tried to change that dynamic of
Yes.
like, instead of the audience having the power over us, are they clap? Will they grant us an encore? It's like, fuck off, bananas, bananas, bananas. So why was I talking about?
Because of Nine Inch Nails.
Okay, so my band Brian Brain toured while I was in Pill. We did a couple of tours of the US, and once I quit Pill, we did some tours of the US, and then John Bechtel was in Brian Brain too, right? So we seemed to have a great audience in Cleveland. People really liked us, and so I remember being at a barbecue for the people from a place called the Fantasy Nightclub with a PH, Fantasy with a PH,
Okay.
the DeFrazier family. And Trent was from Cleveland and he was at the barbecue. And suddenly we're in the laundry room and he's like, yeah, I've got this cassette. I'm like, oh, fuck. Oh, here we go.
No.
And
He gave you a cassette?
yeah. And it was pretty good. And then he slept on my floor in New Jersey when the band came through. They, I think they needed to borrow one of my drum kits for the Head Like a Hole video, which was shot in Chicago. It was Eric Zimmerman who put the Burning Inside video together for Ministry.
Yes.
Um,
They want to borrow you the drums?
borrow the drums and me to play in the Head Like a Hole video, and then Trent. I think I asked Trent to sing on a Pigface track,
Yeah.
and Steve Albini tried to convince me not to. He said,
Why?
he said to me, "You don't need to spend $150 on this kid's plane ticket from Cleveland to Chicago." And I'm like, "Yeah, no, we do." And Steve was like, "I know people who can play keyboards." I'm like, "He's not coming to play keyboards. He's going to sing on a track." And then at some point, Trent asked me to go to the studio and work on the sessions with Flood. That became Wish and something else. There's something else on that. Yeah, I don't remember the other track.
Okay. But it was for Broken.
Yeah.
Yes. No, that's a so so at the moment 99 was not very well known. You were like, here we go, this kid handed me a cassette.
Yeah, I mean they'd sold a few thousand albums.
Yes. No, but at the time that he gave you the cassette, there was no album.
Oh, right. There was no deal. In fact, at some point, I think I sat with John Malm and Trent to help them choose between labels. And I think I might have said, I think you should go with this TVT label. They seem to really love you. They're different, and they're going to put the extra energy into this that a larger label won't be bothered to do.
Oh, that was a good advice.
Yeah, I mean, it ended up going very badly with that label, but still,
yes,
that they got to a point of being famous that can't be taken back.
Always is really especially with the music he was making.
Yeah.
Was really different, difficult to convince the label to take a chance on you.
Yeah.
So no, for sure, it was a good advice. And you, but
and
he
at
invited he invited when he was recording Broken, and you did what on the studio? You played the drums? You programmed the drums?
No, I played them on Wish. I played that beat.
Right.
I played that beat, and there's another song too. I don't know what the other song is.
Because Head Like a Hole was just programming.
Yeah, I'm in the video for Head Like a Hole.
Yes.
I didn't play on Head Like a Hole. Yeah.
Yes, but they wanted to have that feeling of a rock band. And how was the recording of that video? Was nothing extraordinary?
Oh, it was great, but it also
What?
How to say this without sounding shitty? It didn't matter.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, so
for you was just spend the day something.
Yeah, and I mean, you'll see me at the end of that video. I pick up my floor tom
and just match,
and I just throw it over my drums, maybe across Chris's drums as well, and I just leave and get a cab, go home. They hadn't even finished. I'd had enough to drink. I played enough.
Yes.
Like, yeah, there you go. Fucking deal with that, you know. And the idea for the video was it was going to be very tech, you know.
Okay.
And there was like recording tape everywhere.
Yes.
You know, and I'm like, it was very one-dimensional. And
yeah,
I went into the alley behind the club, and there was a flower shop. And it was Saturday evening, and the flower shop was like, okay, we're done. And they put all of their dead flowers into the alley. So I got armfuls and armfuls of dead daffodils and shit, and I just started putting them everywhere just to juxtapose
Yes.
with all this tech and tape and bullshit, you know.
Oh, that's great.
Mm.
Really. So no, that's a great story. So you played, and then Pigface. I saw some videos of you talking. That was kind of a logistic nightmare
Yeah,
to
I
put
mean,
together.
so I mean, it still is. I mean, um,
But it's a great concept. It's
thank you. I mean,
for sure.
it so uh, to me. So when I started Pigface, I did Pill, Brian Brain, Killing Joke, Ministry, all this stuff, and mm, I just wanted it to be interesting and
Mm,
different, and that meant, you know, of course, I'd been in bands for several years, and you
yeah.
even people you want to be in a band with, relationships change and differ. So I thought, well, let's just have things keep changing,
Yes.
and so we just created this atmosphere of like,
Mm,
you never know who's going to show up,
yeah.
and at first it was very, very difficult because promoters don't trust anybody,
Mm,
and they would just assume you never know who's going to show up. It's going to be Martin and his friend and a tambourine, you know. And I made the mistake of trying to go a little bit found object art world. Ce n'est pas un pipe. And so I said, look, at some point in the future, a Pigface concert might be a chair on the stage. Oh, you know. So then promoters are just like, we're not paying $5,000 for this fucking chair. But
A
then,
very expensive chair.
yeah. Uh, but then, like time after time, there's always way more people than we said. The bass player from Gua, the guys from My Life with the Thrill Kill Cult, uh, Genesis P. Orridge
Mm,
helped. He helped to pave the way for what it could become, right? So I would say to Genesis, okay, you're going to do like 8 shows with us. Have you listened to the songs? You know, I think one of them's in G, you know. And he's like, yeah, well, he was very basically like, well, who knows how they'll go when I'm there? I was like, whoa, fucking hell. And he showed up with 6 cassette machines
all right.
without having heard a song, and just started. And absolutely, I've got to go through these recordings again because I'm really excited. I just found all of these tapes from 1991.
Wow.
He just changed the songs, you know. And so that, and I saw an early set list,
Mm,
and the set list was blah blah blah. This song, that song, another song, riff du jour, like soup of the day, right?
yeah.
And we're like, so we're just like, oh, what's the next song? Riff du jour. Oh, here's an idea, right? And there'd be another riff du jour, and there'd be an area where anything can happen. I mean, so
A lot
um,
of experimentation.
yeah, and it just became very interesting.
But from an art's point of view, that's amazing. You know, have that kind of freedom.
Yeah, and I took some pieces from PIL, like Pill. Never rehearsed. We never rehearsed.
Really.
Never rehearsed.
You were paying thousands of dollars and never.
Yeah. Um, and we didn't rehearse for the first Pigface tour. It was like, it's going to be fresh. There's all kinds of reasons, you know.
Yes.
But at the end of the first Pigface tour, we were so much fucking better, right?
Sure.
We were not just better at the songs, we were better at the bits we didn't know were going to happen.
Mm.
We were better at that. And so I was like, fuck. I feel bad for the people who saw the first 3 shows because we're really good at being Pigface now.
Yes.
And so then we'd start to rehearse a little bit, especially from a technical angle.
Yeah.
You know, and even this last, and it's always a fight, even this last tour we did in 2019.
Yeah.
Randy Blythe, Leslie Rankin, all these people are on stage, some really amazing people.
How you get the singer of Lamb of God? He kind of what the fuck? He kind of call you and say, "Hey, I want to sing with you," or
no,
kind of you
it's
propose him.
You'll be really disappointed.
Okay.
But first, remind me to tell you the story. But are you a fan of Ogre and Skinny Puppy?
Yeah, of course.
Okay. So I listened to my mixes from the process last week, and a cassette from 30 years.
Yeah, you were involved. I love that album.
Oh my God. Well, I was nearly crying. There's a song called
She's Not Inside.
Yeah. with a full orchestra. And
Yeah,
on my version is the full orchestra and Ogre's clean vocals. I heard the finished version, and the orchestra is distorted and pulled back like they were frightened of it. I mean, I nearly cried listening to it back.
Yeah.
But
no,
so
that's a great album.
Thank you. So when Randy came, we're like, okay, what do you want to do? He's like, tapeworm. We're like, okay, da 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 da, boo. And he annihilated that song. Right? I mean, honestly, and I think there was we did 2 other songs, and it was like, okay, you know, we're done. We don't need to do that again. Sometimes you want to save that new energy for the audience, you know.
But how do you connect with him?
Oh, okay. So Mary Biker from Gay Bikers on Acid and Pop Will Eat Itself. He was coming. He sang on the Fook album. He's been part of a Pigface for a long time. He accidentally double booked himself.
Okay.
Where Pop Will Eat Itself had a festival in the UK, and I'm like, what the fuck, man? And because everybody needs a work permit, flights, all of this, it's complicated and expensive shit. And so Greta Brinkman, one of our 3 bass players now, Andrew from Rollins, Charles Levi from Thrill Kill Cult, and Greta Brinkman from Moby, she's like, well, my friend could fill in. Like, oh. And
who's your friend?
Her friend is Randy. I'm like, okay. So I called him. I'm like, and I listened to Lamb of God. I'm like, well, okay. I mean, I'm pretty good at being in Pigface now, right? So I'm just like, yeah, okay, you know. And so Randy came out for 3 shows. But this is where it gets complicated.
Yeah.
So sometimes some people in Pigface will come out, sing 2 songs, and go off stage, and maybe come on at the end, kind of in a theatrical way.
Yes.
Right? Like, oh, here's the substitute. Now they're gone. Oh, they're back at the end for We Are the World, right? And but Randy just loved being on stage, and he'd be like, beep, beep, beep. So there's a cage around my drum kit made out of pipe, and we hang things from it like a mirror ball and stuff, and people climb on it so they're above my head, you know. So we clamped some tom-tom stands to the pipes in front of my kit, so Randy could just it just became this huge 3 drum kit thing with almost like another drum kit and a half in front of it, in a line. So Randy was always, and then he shows up. People kind of go off in the afternoon. So some people just go sleep. Some people work on graphics or whatever.
Sure.
And some people. So Randy comes back from his music shop with this ratchet. I'm like, oh fuck. That's just not going to work in anything, But like, he put it on just about it worked everywhere. And then he just said, and he's a really, really lovely guy. And he would message everybody. We had like a group message.
Yes.
He'd say, I'm inside the venue. There's a fantastic washer and dryer. Who has laundry? And he would just he'd do people's laundry. Like, I hope I'm not like busting his myth, right? Just a really nice guy. So after 3 days, there's one more show, and Mary's going to come back. And I think we were in New York, Chicago, Cleveland, Rochester, but I don't know. Mary Biker's going to arrive in New York, and that's it. And Randy just said, I want to go home. I want to do the rest of the tour. And we're like, okay. So now I get to flip between the guy who has to deal with all the shit, right? Like, how many bunks do we have? How are we even doing this?
Yes.
And we just made it happen. I didn't want it to end there.
Yeah.
And I'm so grateful because then Randy wasn't aware of Galen Lee, who plays fiddle with us. She's brittle boned, and she plays fiddle from her chair through a looping pedal, and she's fucking amazing. There's a great picture of Randy, and she's like Galen is like looking at him. It's just fantastic. So by the time we did 19 shows, and there's a live double album. But everybody was really serious. All the singers would just like sit in front of the drum riser watching Leslie. They didn't want to be off to the side. They'd sit on stage like, oh, okay, And so, but this is where it gets kind of Pigface. The singers are starting to all work together. They're starting to practice harmonies to do, okay, you come in with a thing. Remember, Cleveland, it was better when you didn't do that. So don't do that. So it starts to become mapped out. And so the sound guy is like, oh, this is much better because I know when someone's going to sing the part, I can hit the delay, boom, 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 which of course is the opposite of Pigface. So a couple of the singers came up to me and they said, okay, can we ask for no more surprises? Right. Because I tell everybody, oh, okay, there's 5 of you and you play tin cans. Fantastic. 4 people playing bagpipes. Let's go, So, and I just said, yeah, of course, I get it, of course. But in the meantime, I'd arranged for these 4 rappers from the south side of Chicago to come and join us. And so it was kind of naughty of me, but it was very Pigface of me that when we did this song with Leslie, Hips, Tits, Lips, Power, these rappers came out and started passing the mic to each other. And it was, and everybody in the audience, it was everything that I wanted Pigface to always be: welcoming, diverse,
yes,
musically and in every way. And you can talk about that stuff all day, but you've got to show that stuff on stage,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, it takes
And
balls to do something like that.
yeah, and of course, it was like the favorite moment of all of the singers was when a bunch
That's
of people, you know, it was great.
No, that's great. And the name Pigface came from what exactly?
Pigface was one of the first bands I was ever in. It was a cover band, um, and it was told to me that it was named after the lead guitarist's wife, uh, uh, and he told me in front of her. It wasn't like um, uh, a nasty inside joke. He
Sure.
told me in front of. It's named after Susan here. Yeah. And she
No.
she thought it was great, you know.
What the fuck?
Yeah, and so I mean, of course, that band's been disbanded for 40 years now, but it just kind of stuck with me, and it
Yes.
felt like the right name for the
Mm,
animal
yes.
that Pigface, the organism that
I
Pigface
don't
is.
know why in my head I always make a relation with Pigface and Pig. You know the band from
Yeah, I know Raymond. I love
Yeah.
Raymond. Uh,
So
um,
they're not relation at all. Pigface and Pig. No.
no, I released an album with Raymond and um, oh my goodness, Anna Wildsmith.
Okay.
Je t'aime. She was fantastic. She came on the road with Pigface as well at some point. But no, I like Raymond a lot. I think at some point he should come out and be part of Pigface, but it hasn't happened yet.
Yeah, for sure. And your double vinyl is with your own label, Invisible Records?
Yeah.
Because I remember with that label you release what bands?
Oh my
With
goodness. Um,
a lot.
Psychic TV, CamLab, Einstürzende Neubauten, Test Department. Uh,
Decay?
huh?
Decay? No? Is the project?
Decrypts. Decrypts.
Yes. Is the was the kind of the side project of Jurgen
Yeah,
called DK.com.
DK.com. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah,
That was kind of Decrypt.
yeah. Um, and we've done some interesting other stuff. The Opium Jukebox, some music from China, spoken word, dub, like all kinds of stuff. All kinds of stuff.
No, that's amazing. And you have an inspiration, like a drummer that really inspire you, or you always try to find your own
No,
identity?
I mean, uh, some bands would be the sensational Alex Harvey band. From a theatrical point of view, that's why I
Yes.
wear a stripy shirt. He always wore a stripy shirt. I was supposed to meet him, and the day before he died. We had the same music.
No,
Yeah, we
fuck.
had the same music publisher, and I saw all of his album artwork. I'm like, what is this album artwork doing in the foyer? Like, oh, we represent Alex. I'm like, holy fuck. And but he'd set the drum kit up sideways sometimes, just like changing things around.
Mm,
Of course, as a kid, people like Billy Cobham, Gene Krupa, Buddy Rich, those kind of
mm.
drummers. Um, John Bonham, of course, that kind of that
And
kind of.
wait, your progressive, what is the name of the drummer of King Crimson? I forgot.
Um,
Bill Bradford? No.
Bill Bruford,
Wait, Bill
yeah,
Bradford.
Bill Bruford, and Bill Rieflin. Bill Rieflin played drums with King Crimson um, in the last 5 years before he died. He ended up
Oh,
he ended up playing keyboards with them because I don't think he was able to play the drums. Um,
yeah.
uh,
Because that was one of the first guys I saw that use a electronic kit.
mhm, yeah.
Yeah.
So and then but I'm not really an experimental drummer. I do experiments, and I'm
Yes.
behind my kit.
For me, you're more like an artist, you know?
So,
You like to experiment with different media.
yeah,
You don't you're not just only a drummer. You're a you like to. So well, I think we already 1 hour and a half. So I know you're a busy guy. I just want to know if you there's any current projects or something that you would like to promote. I think, well, the first will be invite to people to
Oh,
go to
okay.
your site, maybe.
Okay, there you go. You can get my book for free. That's still um uh I mean, I'm a father of four, right? But I came up through punk. So the way things are right now, I have a 600-page book with some really good information in it. Anybody who
Yes.
wants it can go get it for free. That's punk as fuck.
Yeah, no, that I think they're really u- useful for bands, for everyone that is involved with the music industry. That, of course, I don't know, is a worse time for the music industry like right now.
Um, it's good and it's bad. So
Yes,
if you're trying to put on a live show,
yeah,
it's really really bad. If you're
yes,
trying to do that through a StreamYard or Zoom, it's
yeah,
bad. But
yeah,
there's never been a better time for you to have a conversation like the one we're having now
yeah, of
with
course.
your fans, right? So
Yes,
we did an event on Saturday. It was the 30th anniversary of the recording of In Case You Didn't Feel Like Showing Up. And we
yes,
had 351 people register. And we talked for 4 hours about that sequence of events. And I will always say hi to people. I'll talk to anybody between the venue and the bus or inside the venue for 5 or 6 minutes. I'm like, I can't hear you. The DJ's loud, or I'm soaking wet because I just played, you know.
yes,
But to have a 3, 4 hour conversation with people, now is the time to do that. So I
yes,
encourage any artists who are like, I can't play my, yeah, you can't. You can talk to people and you can build a bridge, and that bridge will still exist when you can play shows.
yes. No, it's like Darwin, adapt to survive.
Yeah, 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 yeah. What can we do? Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yes, no, for sure. And well, I have two links here that maybe I'll share it. It's
Oh,
that.
oh, okay. So Monday night, I'm doing merchandising the engine part two. Um, I'm I just learned some stuff about the merch booth, which was like fucking hell. Every single part of your tour of your band. If I'm still learning stuff, and I've been doing this since I was 9, you can be learning stuff. Not you, everybody else.
Well, me too. I,
Yeah,
I I can learn.
yeah. So this is part two. It's free on
That's
Monday
cool.
night, and then and these sessions that we do, there's people from New Zealand, Spain, El Salvador.
Yeah,
I
that's
mean,
great.
it's really fucking great.
Yeah, because in a festival, a concert, maybe even a talk, there's always your I don't know. You can only touch just a little amount of people.
Yeah,
But now with all the technology we have, that this is not a new technology that
right,
we are using. It's just that now we are starting to realize that we can
right,
use it
and,
for
and
connect with more people all over the world.
right, and when things do, and the reason I say things aren't going to get back to normal, because once you've sat in front of a Zoom screen or 8 screens with 30 people on each screen, I'm like, okay, I'm going to have Zoom live from behind my drum kit. I'm going to be waving and talking to people on screen while I'm on stage. Like, why would I not do that? You
Yes.
know. So things are going to change for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
No, but that's great. And there's something else.
the last link that I think Molly sent to you is this auction that we're
Yeah.
having. And if can you is that the
Is that the link? I think.
yeah, can you hit items for sale? Do you see that? Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, there you go. So there's a ton of interesting stuff.
What wax track bundle?
It's a
That's
Wax
great.
Tracks bundle. Yeah, yeah. So this is a Chicago thing, right? The people from Wax Tracks, Julia Nash, sent us this bundle for the auction because we're doing this to benefit Jolly Roger, who was our tour manager on the Ministry tour. He tour managed Pigface. He tour managed Killing Joke. So
Wow.
he has items. Can I? Oh, I can't click on it. If you can see the other items,
Yeah, sure.
um,
I
he's got
just
yeah, just yeah, that's
that's great.
one of my stripy shirts for Pigface.
Yes.
He just finds all of these things in his filing cabinet, um,
No,
just
really.
random photographs. This is an advance sheet for one of the tours one of the shows in 1990, where Jolly Roger would call the venue. What power do you have? Are there stairs? Do you have hot water? Is there a shower? It's called an advance sheet. So these are his advance sheets from that tour.
Wow.
Um, Signs from Skinny Puppy's dressing room. This is like he's had these since 1990, sitting in a filing cabinet.
Wow.
Yeah, it's crazy. These are. Remember, I said the venues were always frightened about who was going to show up, who wouldn't.
Yes.
So we made them print these signs to put outside. So there's all kinds of
It's a nice
crazy.
incarnation of Pigface. Is.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Wow, that's great.
And so he's auctioning all of these items. We threw in the Pigface live vinyl. This is some latex scenery that Tim Gore, who works on Walking Dead,
Wow.
he's won all kinds of awards. This is what he was doing in 1990. A KMFDM poster, which nobody wants that. Boo hoo. Pigface vinyl. Oh, nobody wants the Pigface vinyl either. So this is a live album we talked about, and this is a reissue of our first album, Gub. This is hand screened by me, signed and numbered. This hand is glow in the dark. So
Wow.
there's a ton of stuff that we're not just trying to raise money for
Yes.
Jolly Roger. We're just trying to show him some love and that
Yes.
people care. You know.
No, it's amazing. There's a lot of people involved with Skinny
Yeah,
Puppy. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Oh, that's great. Well, Martin, I really, really thank you for your time, your
Thank you.
amazing stories, and well, uh, maybe I can have you another time.
And
Uh,
if I can just leave my
sure.
Twitter is at Martin Marteeen. Uh, my Instagram is Flowers Fight for Sunshine.
Yeah, I love that.
Well,
Uh,
I know they're all supposed to be the same, but they're not.
well, it's not a lot of people know you already. So for sure they will gonna find you. And well, I really thank you for your time. And well, I
Oh,
hope
th-
you.
thanks, Ivan. It was really nice to spend to spend some time with you and talk about all this stuff.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Thank you.
So stay safe and well,
You too.
see
Bye.
you another time.
Bye.
Bye.